Ambassador Kethmara stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Regulatory Council, her crystalline features glowing with indignation as she reviewed the evidence that had been presented to the Assembly. For 50 years, the Terran Limitation Treaty had been one of the galaxy's most successful arms control agreements. Now, it appeared that humanity had been systematically violating it in the most audacious way possible. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic amplifiers. "We are gathered here today to address what may be the most brazen violation of galactic law in recorded history." The circular chamber buzzed with whispered conversations in dozens of languages as representatives from 43 different species reviewed the shocking intelligence reports. At the center of the room, holographic displays showed detailed schematics and sensor readings that painted an impossible picture. "As you all know," Kethmara continued, "the Terran Limitation Treaty of 2387 specifically prohibited humanity from constructing, deploying, or operating military vessels exceeding Class 4 specifications. This treaty was signed after the Centauri incident, when human military expansion threatened galactic stability." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the Assembly. Everyone remembered the Centauri incident. Humanity's first attempt at building a proper military fleet had resulted in technologies so devastating that the major galactic powers had united to impose strict limitations on human military development. Humans were permitted merchant vessels, exploration ships, and limited defensive platforms, but nothing that could threaten other species. For 5 decades, Kethmara declared, humanity has apparently complied with these restrictions. Their registered fleet consists entirely of civilian vessels, research platforms, and light patrol craft. They have submitted to regular inspections, provided detailed manufacturing reports, and maintained the facade of a peaceful, limitation-compliant civilization. She activated the central hologram, which displayed surveillance footage from the remote Vega system. What it showed made several delegates gasp audibly. A massive human vessel, easily 10 times larger than anything permitted under the treaty, was conducting what could only be described as combat trials. The ship's weapons systems were reducing asteroid targets to component atoms. Its shields were deflecting energies that should have been lethal, and its propulsion system was generating power readings that rivaled those of major galactic dreadnoughts. "This," Kethmara announced, "is the UES Defiance, a human warship that should not exist according to galactic law." Representative Chen Wei of the Terran Diplomatic Corps rose from his position in the human delegation section. Despite the gravity of the accusations, he appeared remarkably calm, almost amused. "Ambassador Kethmara," he said respectfully, "I appreciate the Council's concern, but I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the vessel you've observed." "A misunderstanding?" Kethmara's crystalline features flared brighter. "We have detailed recordings of a human military vessel that exceeds treaty limitations by orders of magnitude." Chen smiled pleasantly. "Actually, Ambassador, you have recordings of a civilian mining vessel engaged in routine asteroid processing operations." The chamber erupted in protests and demands for clarification. Kethmara gestured for silence, her patience clearly strained. "Representative Chen, do not insult this Assembly's intelligence. That vessel was clearly conducting weapons tests." "Not weapons tests, Ambassador. Mining equipment trials. The UES Defiance is registered as a deep space mining platform designed for large-scale asteroid processing operations." Chen activated his own holographic display, showing the ship's official registration documents. "As you can see, the Defiance is classified as a civilian industrial vessel. Its weapons systems are actually asteroid disaggregation arrays, designed for breaking apart large metallic bodies. Its military shields are radiation protection systems necessary for deep space mining operations. Its combat engines are heavy-duty propulsion systems required to move massive mineral payloads. The assembly fell silent as delegates reviewed the documentation. Technically, everything Chen said was accurate. The ship was indeed registered as a mining platform, and the weapons did bear striking similarities to industrial equipment. This is semantics, Kethmara protested. The functional capabilities of this vessel clearly violate the spirit of the treaty. Perhaps, Chen agreed amicably, but not the letter of the law. The Terran Limitation Treaty specifically prohibits military vessels. It says nothing about industrial equipment that happens to be extremely robust. Ambassador Vexthari of the Altarian Federation leaned forward. Representative Chen, surely you don't expect us to believe that humanity has been accidentally developing military-grade technology while pursuing civilian mining operations? Chen's smile widened. Of course not, Ambassador. There's nothing accidental about our development program. We've been very deliberately creating the most advanced mining fleet in the galaxy. He gestured, and the hologram expanded to show dozens of additional vessels, all bearing civilian registrations but displaying capabilities that clearly exceeded any reasonable industrial requirements. The UES Determination is our asteroid belt excavation specialist, Chen explained cheerfully. The UES Perseverance handles deep space ore collection. The UES Resilience specializes in planetary mining operations. All civilian vessels, all perfectly legal under galactic treaties. How many of these mining ships have you built? Kethmara asked weakly. Currently, about 300, but we're expanding production rapidly to meet growing demand for rare earth elements throughout the galaxy. The implications struck the assembly like a physical blow. Humanity had created a fleet of vessels that were technically civilian but functionally equivalent to a navy that could challenge any military force in the galaxy. Representative Chen said, High Counselor Thisian of the Machine Worlds, you're claiming that humanity has assembled a fleet of military-grade vessels while technically complying with arms limitation treaties. That's exactly what I'm claiming, Counselor. You see, when the galaxy restricted our ability to build warships, we simply built something else instead. Something that could defend human space, project human power, and ensure human survival, but couldn't be classified as military under existing laws. Chen looked around the chamber, his expression becoming more serious. The treaty prohibited us from building warships. It didn't prohibit us from building ships that could become warships if the need arose. It didn't prohibit us from developing technologies that could be adapted for military use. It certainly didn't prohibit us from ensuring that humanity would never again be defenseless against galactic powers who might decide we're inconvenient. Ambassador Kethmara stared at the human representative, finally understanding the full scope of what they were facing. You've militarized your entire civilian fleet. We've civilianized our entire military fleet, Chen corrected. There's a difference, and that difference has kept us in compliance with galactic law while ensuring that humanity will never again be vulnerable to the kind of restrictions imposed after Centauri. As the assembly absorbed the magnitude of humanity's legal and technological circumvention of galactic arms control, Chen delivered his final point. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings of all species, humanity wasn't allowed to build warships. So we built something better, a fleet that serves our economic needs during peacetime and our defensive needs if anyone tries to limit our freedom again. We didn't break your laws. We just proved they weren't written well enough to contain human ingenuity. The chamber fell silent as delegates realized that the age of controlling human military development through treaties had just ended.